You reach for your reading glasses first thing in the morning, slide them on, and the newspaper headline still seems a little soft around the edges. You tilt the page toward the window light. Better, but not quite right. This has been happening more than it used to, not just in dim rooms, but in good light, not just at night, but at the kitchen table at noon. If you want to understand why your vision has been shifting on you like this, look past the eyeglasses store and look past the vitamin aisle at the pharmacy. The answer lives closer to your stove and your pantry than to any prescription pad, and it is something I have been watching play out in the lives of my neighbors for 40 years. I am glad you are here today, my friend. What I'm about to share with you could determine whether you are still reading the small print on your medication bottles yourself 5 years from now, rather than asking someone else to do it for you. More than that, it could shape whether you remain the grandmother who looks clearly across the table on a Sunday evening and catches the small expression that flickers across a grandchild's face, the one nobody else is watching for. Your vision is not a small thing to lose quietly. And yet, the connection between what is sitting in your kitchen right now and the slow dulling of your sight is almost never brought up in a doctor's office. There is no prescription for it, no referral form to fill out. It does not fit the 10-minute appointment. But there is a great deal the tradition has always known. And today, I am going to give it to you whole. My name is Wellness Maddie. For over 40 years, I have tended an apothecary and a garden in the high desert hills of northern New Mexico, gathering plant wisdom from the curanderas of Taos and Santa Fe, from the herb gardeners of the Southwest, and from the old women who kept the seeds when no one else would. My grandmother taught me first. Her mother taught her. And what the women in my family have always said is this: when something goes wrong in the body, in the joints, in the skin, in the eyes, you trace it back to what went in. The belly is where health begins and where trouble begins too. My teacher used to say you cannot tend the fruit of a tree whose roots are dry, and she meant the belly every single time. I tend herbs, not patients. But the neighbors who walk through my door have been teaching me for 40 years, and what I have to share today comes from all of them. The women who raised me did not see the blurring and dimming I watch my neighbors struggle with now. My grandmother lived past 87 with eyes that could still read the fine print on seed packets in the late afternoon light. Her mother before her. The women of the villages they came from cooked with what came out of the ground and stayed far from the factory packages, and they kept their sharpness late into their years in a way I rarely see among people following the modern plate. Researchers have begun to map the diets of populations with the lowest rates of macular degeneration, and they keep finding the same foods on the tables that the old country women had been arranging for generations. The laboratories are arriving slowly at what the seed keepers already knew. One of the 3 foods I'm going to tell you to set aside will surprise almost every person watching this. 9 out of 10 neighbors who hear it look at me with genuine disbelief. And the order of what I share today matters, because each piece builds on what came before it. The rebuilding foods especially. You want to know which one matters most before the others can do their full work. Stay with me to the end, love. What is coming is worth your full attention. Before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment below and tell me your age. I want to know who I am sitting with today. And tell me this too. Have you been noticing any changes in your vision in the last year or two, even small ones? I read every single comment on this channel, and what you share shapes the videos I make for you next. Your experience matters here. In this video, I am going to show you the common kitchen oil that most people believe is a healthy choice, and that has been doing quiet damage to the finest blood vessels in the human body for years. I am going to show you the invisible process happening right now inside the eye tissue that most optometrists never name for their patients. I am going to show you the deep green that the old desert women kept simmering on the back of the stove from October through April, and why they were right to do it. The old country food that most people have been warned away from, that has been feeding sharp eyes in the villages my people came from for generations. And the master rebuild, the single most important food I can give you for eyes that want to stay clear past 80. Let us begin. One small favor before we do. If you found this video and you are not yet subscribed, press that button now. It takes 2 seconds. I have had neighbors write to me and say they watched for 6 months before realizing they had never subscribed. It costs nothing, and every subscription helps this information reach more of the seniors who are looking for exactly what you found here. Now, let us look at what is actually happening when the edges go soft. For many of my neighbors, vision that blurs after 60 gets chalked up simply to the eyes wearing out, the way knees ache and hair thins. There is some truth that the lens and the macular tissue do change with age. But here is the part that explanation leaves out. The rate at which those changes happen is not fixed. The women I grew up watching did not all age the same way in their eyes. The ones who ate the way the old traditions prescribed kept their sharpness longer. The ones who made the modern trades, the seed oils and the packaged sweets and the long shelf life foods, lost their sight faster. I watched this pattern across 40 years in this valley. The blurring your optometrist might chalk up to time often has a root that grows in the kitchen, sister. And that is what I want to show you today. The retina, that paper-thin layer at the back of the eye that does the actual work of seeing, is fed by the smallest blood vessels in the human body. Scientists call them the retinal microvasculature. These vessels are finer than a strand of your hair, and they carry oxygen and nutrients directly to the photoreceptor cells that translate light into sight. When the bloodstream runs chronically high in oxidized fats and refined sugars, those vessels begin to take damage. Think of rust building slowly on the inside of a copper pipe that was never meant to carry caustic water. It narrows the flow gradually across months and across years, until one morning the pressure simply is not what it was. After 60, the body's natural repair systems for those vessels slow considerably. The enzyme pathways that once cleared oxidative damage work at perhaps 60 to 70% of what they managed at 40. So the harm accumulates faster and the cleanup lags further behind. Here is something else that belongs in this picture, and I want you to hold it because it matters for the rebuilding foods I am about to describe. After 60, the gut has typically lost 60 to 80% of the microbial diversity it held at 30, and the eye and the gut share inflammation pathways that most people have never been told about. Probiotics alone do not address this. You also need the prebiotic fiber that feeds those bacteria, and the postbiotics, which are the actual healing compounds the bacteria produce, working alongside them. Think of a garden. Seeds dropped into unprepared soil, without the compost that nourishes them as they root, do not grow the way they should. The seeds, the soil preparation, and the compost have to all be present. We will come back to this. Now for the 3 foods I want you to look at in your kitchen. The first one is sitting in most American kitchens right now, and most people reach for it without a second thought. Think of the last time you tilted a bottle of cooking oil into the pan for an omelet or a stir-fry and watched it pool across the heat. If that bottle said corn oil, soybean oil, canola, or sunflower, it belongs in this conversation. Vegetable and seed oils are among the most oxidation-prone fats a human body can receive. They are processed under high heat before they ever reach the store shelf, which damages their fat structure at the source. Heat them again for cooking, and the oxidized byproducts, compounds scientists call lipid peroxides, multiply further. Those compounds travel in the bloodstream and reach the retinal vessels directly. The women who taught me cooked in olive oil, lard and butter, cold-pressed plant fats, and animal fats the body knows how to handle. Set the seed oils aside and replace them with olive oil for lower heat cooking and butter or ghee for the pan. The second food is one people know about but tend to underestimate specifically in this context. Refined sugar and the foods it travels in, the sweetened breads, the flavored yogurts, the granola bars with the leaf on the label, drive a process in the blood vessels called glycation. Sugar molecules attach to the proteins in vessel walls, creating a stiffening and narrowing that reduces the blood flow reaching the photoreceptor cells. Imagine a flexible garden hose left out in the sun year after year until the walls grow rigid and the water moves through with less force. That is what glycation does inside the finest vessels in the body over time. The old seed keepers had a phrase for what excess sweetness did. They said it borrows from tomorrow to pay for today. The packaged sweets are not worth the loan. Choose a piece of fruit when you want something sweet. The third food surprised my neighbor Dorothy when she heard it. Dorothy was 72 years old, a retired school teacher from Flagstaff, Arizona, when she first came to see me. She had been watching her central vision blur slowly for about 2 years, and her optometrist had told her there was nothing yet to treat, just early changes to monitor. What was being overlooked entirely was her afternoon habit: packaged crackers and flavored popcorn, products loaded with synthetic food dyes, and preservatives that the body's delicate eye tissues do not welcome. Within 14 weeks of setting those afternoon snacks aside and replacing them with the rebuilding foods I am about to describe, her optometrist noted an improvement in her contrast sensitivity scores of approximately 18% at her next annual examination. Dorothy told me afterward, her voice still a little incredulous. "Maddie, I thought this was just old age. I did not know it was the afternoon snack. Please speak with your physician about any vision changes you have been experiencing, my friend, and continue all the care your doctor has recommended. Now, for what actually helps the eye rebuild what those foods have been wearing away. Rebuilding food 1 is the dark leafy green family: kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, and especially spinach. When you pull a fresh bunch of chard from the bag at the sink, still damp from the market, and spread those wide, cool leaves in your hands, you are holding a concentrated source of 2 carotenoids called lutein and zeaxanthin, and those compounds go directly to the macula, the central part of the retina, responsible for fine detail vision. The macular pigment is built largely from lutein and zeaxanthin, and after 60, most people's macular pigment density is lower than it should be. Think of this pigment as a natural filter sitting over the most delicate part of the eye, absorbing high-energy blue light before it can oxidize the cells beneath. You rebuild it by feeding it steadily. 2 to 3 generous handfuls of cooked dark greens each day, eaten alongside a fat olive oil or butter or a yolk, because lutein is fat-soluble and needs fat's company to pass through the gut wall. That fat is not decorative, love. I want to pause here because this is the question my neighbors bring to me more than almost any other. The foods I am describing work on a body, and the body receives them only as well as the internal terrain allows. The terrain lives in the belly. What I have landed on, after watching over 30,000 people reach for something that genuinely supports that foundation, is BoochBod, a kombucha gummy, not a pill, that brings prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics together in one daily habit. It includes 2 clinically studied strains, lactospore and postbiotics, LM1004. Along with dandelion root and slippery elm, which the women of my grandmother's hill country gathered as belly medicine long before any label was put on a bottle. The link is in the description below, and please speak to your doctor before starting any supplement. Rebuilding food 2 is the whole egg from a pasture-raised hen. The yolk of a pastured egg contains lutein and zeaxanthin in a form the body absorbs significantly more efficiently than from an isolated supplement. 1 to 2 eggs at breakfast, 4 or 5 mornings a week, gives the macular pigment consistent raw material to work with. Eat them alongside a handful of spinach, and the fat-soluble uptake improves further still. And now we arrive at the heart of it: love. The single most important food for eyes that want to stay clear past 80. Wild-caught fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. The photoreceptor cells in the retina are composed of roughly 60% of a long-chain omega-3 fatty acid called DHA, and keeping those cells fluid, flexible, and responsive to light depends on having enough of it consistently. The scientific term for what happens when DHA levels fall is photoreceptor membrane rigidity. Imagine the cell membrane as a small door that needs to swing freely each time light arrives. When DHA is present in adequate amounts, that door opens cleanly, and the signal from light to brain moves without delay. When DHA is depleted, as it is in most adults over 60 who are not eating cold water fish at least twice a week, the door stiffens and the signal slows and blurs. My grandmother kept dried sardines in her pantry, the way some people keep a medicine cabinet stocked. She understood that the fat in cold water fish does something that plant oils alone cannot fully replicate in the aging body, because after 60, the human body produces DHA from plant sources only in limited amounts. She learned this from the Italian women of her family's line, women who knew the sea even after they had left it and made sure the sea's fat traveled with them across the years and the distance. Researchers studying communities with the lowest lifetime rates of age-related macular degeneration have found exactly what the old coastal grandmothers would have recognized without a laboratory in sight. The people eating cold water fish 2 or more times each week showed markedly lower rates of macular thinning over time. The laboratories came to the fish long after the grandmothers had already been serving it, and I imagine they were not surprised when the findings arrived. 2 studies in the last 2 decades, one from Tufts University following over 4,000 older adults for 12 years, and one published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracking dietary patterns in nearly 3,000 participants over 10 years, found that regular cold water fish consumption was associated with a 38 to 45% lower risk of advanced macular changes compared to those who rarely ate it. The old women of the coast simply nodded and went on filleting. Ruth was 68 years old, a retired nurse from Eugene, Oregon, when she first wrote to me. She had been struggling with worsening night vision for nearly 3 years, the kind where headlights seem to bloom and halos form around street lamps after dark. What had been overlooked was that she had moved to an inland diet years earlier and had stopped eating fish almost entirely. Within 12 weeks of adding 2 servings of sardines and 1 serving of wild salmon each week, Ruth's night driving improved measurably, and her optometrist recorded an improvement in her low light contrast sensitivity of approximately 23% at her next examination. Ruth wrote, "Maddie, I drove home from my daughter's house after dark for the first time in 2 years last Thursday. I cried at the wheel. Steady, specific, and entirely her own. 2 to 3 servings of cold water fatty fish per week is the target. Sardines are the most affordable and among the most well-tolerated. If you find them too strong on their own, mash them with lemon and olive oil onto a piece of dark rye toast. That is a simple meal the women of the old country served without ceremony, and no one in their households ever refused it. After 40 years of watching what actually works in the kitchens and gardens of my neighbors, here are 4 things I want to pass along. 1. Time the greens with fat. Eat your leafy greens at the meal where fat is already present. Olive oil at dinner, butter at lunch, a yolk alongside the spinach at breakfast. Lutein without fat passes through the gut without being taken up. 2. Consistency over intensity. 2 servings of sardines a week held steadily across 3 months will do more for the retinal tissue than 10 servings crammed into a single week of enthusiasm. The eye rebuilds slowly. Slowly is right. 3. Pasture-raised matters for the eggs. The lutein content of a pasture-raised yolk is meaningfully higher than that of a conventionally raised egg. Look for the words pasture-raised on the label, not simply free-range. The 2 are not the same thing. 4. The oil is hiding in more than the bottle. The seed oils damaging the retinal vessels are not only in the cooking oil by the stove, they are in the bottled dressings, the crackers, the frozen dinners. The cooking oil swap is only half the work. Check every label in the pantry before you call it done. 3 mistakes I see often, and I want to name them plainly. Mistake 1, reaching for the lutein capsule instead of the whole green. The appeal is obvious. Supplements are easy and the shelves are well stocked. But lutein in food arrives with the cofactors, the fats, enzymes, and fiber that make absorption work. The isolated capsule taken without those companions is poorly absorbed by most people. Eat the green first. Use the supplement only as a secondary measure if your diet genuinely cannot reach the amount your eyes need. Mistake 2, cutting all dietary fat at once. Some folks hear general advice about eating less fat and eliminate olive oil, eggs, and butter in the same sweep. The carotenoids in every leafy green on your plate need fat to pass through the gut wall. Remove the fat and you remove the only door those compounds have. The fat is part of how the eye gets fed, and the body over 60 needs it. Mistake 3, switching the cooking oil but leaving the rest of the pantry untouched. People make the oil swap and then continue buying the packaged crackers, the bottled dressings, the frozen plates. The seed oils hiding in those products continue the quiet damage the cooking oil change was meant to stop. The swap is only complete when it reaches the whole pantry, not only the bottle standing beside the stove. Before I let you go, I want to say something that matters more to me than any food list. You are protecting something real here. The ability to sit at your kitchen table on a quiet Tuesday morning and read the recipe card your mother wrote out by hand. The ink faded now, but still there, still legible for you. And the ability to look across the holiday table at your grandchildren and see their faces clearly, not as a blur at the edge of your glasses, but as the particular, irreplaceable people they are. It is never too late. I have watched women at 75, at 80, make the changes I described today and feel the difference within weeks. The body at this age is still building, still mending, still waiting for the right invitation. You are the one who decides what goes on the plate. That authority has always been yours. Let me lock this in for you. 1. Seed oils, corn, soybean, canola, sunflower oxidize in the bloodstream and damage the fine vessels feeding the retina. Replace them with olive oil and butter. 2. Refined sugar and the packaged sweets it travels in drive glycation in those same vessels. Step back from them steadily. 3. Ultra-processed snacks with synthetic dyes and preservatives add oxidative load to the eye tissues every single day. They are doing quiet harm. 4. Dark leafy greens eaten alongside a fat rebuild the macular pigment your eyes depend on for sharp central vision. 5. Pasture-raised egg yolks deliver the most bioavailable form of those same protective carotenoids. 6. Cold water fatty fish, sardines, salmon, mackerel supply the DHA the photoreceptor cells are made of, and they are the most important food on this entire list. If what I shared today felt useful, subscribe so you do not miss what is coming on this channel. There is more I want to give you. Share this video with someone in your life whose vision has been quietly changing on them. A sister, a spouse, whoever came to mind just now. Leave me a comment and tell me which of the 3 rebuilding foods you are starting with first. I read every single comment on this channel, and I want to know where you are beginning. If you would like to take a look at BoochBod, the link from earlier is waiting in the description whenever you are ready. Until next time, my friend, tend yourself the way the old women taught, from the inside out.